are less than 2 weeks away from the Republicans taking over the House, and current House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy is still having serious problems corralling enough votes to become Speaker. In fact, the 5 or 6 GOP extremists who oppose him seem so dug in that establishment Republicans are now reportedly preparing possible new candidates behind the scenes. In one scenario, it would mean a moderate who could potentially get Democratic support if McCarthy fails to win a majority in multiple ballots. In fact, new developments over the past 24 hours should not give McCarthy much solace at all. It's hard to believe, right? That radical Republican opposition could lead to a much more moderate House Speaker. But that scenario, on the table, according to a new report from Fox News. The report, titled "A Messy Speaker's Race and the House Threatens to Spill a Lot of Milk for the GOP," Fox reports that a coalition of Democrats and Republicans could actually choose a former member of Congress as Speaker, as the rules do not require the Speaker of the House to be an elected member of Congress. Quote, Republicans believe they could court a former member to stand in, someone who could secure the votes of Republicans and some Democrats in a coalition. Outgoing Representatives Fred Upton, John Katko, and Lee Zeldin are the names mentioned most often. But then, after that blockbuster report, another report which suggests the GOP might go more radical. According to Politico, a group of Republican lawmakers have quietly told Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise, who is more aligned with the right-wing base of the party, to, quote, be ready if the effort to elect McCarthy falters. Last month, Scalise was unanimously selected by House Republicans to serve as majority leader in the Congress, as distinguished from Speaker, and some of the hardliners are suggesting that Scalise would be an acceptable alternative. One of the holdouts, Matt Gaetz, told the New York Post he was open to the idea of Scalise as Speaker. The Florida congressman is one of the 5 who say they refuse to vote for McCarthy under any circumstances. And with Republicans holding just a 4-seat majority in the House, the 5 never Kevins would be enough to prevent McCarthy from taking the Speaker's gavel. Look, whatever happens here, it seems plausible and increasingly even likely at this point that Kevin McCarthy will not be Speaker of the House come January. In fact, the opposition to McCarthy seems like it's growing rather than shrinking. At a conservative youth summit over the weekend in Phoenix, Gaetz doubled down on his anti-McCarthy stance and was joined by far-right Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, with Boebert even going so far as to attack her one-time ally, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a staunch McCarthy backer.
Someone who we all respect, Marjorie Taylor Greene, says Kevin McCarthy is going to be a great speaker.
I guess you'll have to ask Marjorie about that. I'm a fan of hers. I'm an admirer, but it's not something we see the same way.
Lauren?
Well, you know, I've been aligned with Marjorie and accused of believing a lot of the things that she believes in. I don't believe in this, just like I don't believe in Russian space lasers.
Are you a hard no?
Space lasers and all of this.
Greene didn't take kindly to that remark, fired back at Boebert on Twitter, saying, quote, she gladly takes our money, but when she's asked, Lauren refuses to endorse President Trump. She refuses to support Kevin McCarthy, and she childishly threw me under the bus for a cheap soundbite. McCarthy, for his part, is growing impatient with the whole thing. In a pair of appearances on Fox News over the past week, he said that the holdouts have already stalled the House GOP agenda significantly and warned that a prolonged standoff would hurt the party even more.
This has to be done, and it's delaying our ability to really govern. And so we've got to get this straightened out and start moving forward. They have now, just in this last month, delayed us almost a couple months from having that happen. We don't have staff yet. We don't have committees even populated. A lot of them talk about wanting to empower the membership more. Well, why wouldn't they respect what the membership voted on? Why wouldn't they respect 85% of the vote?
But those warnings seem to be falling on deaf ears, at least now. McCarthy feeling the effects of the razor-thin Republican majority, where just about everyone has to be on the same page, including the moderates and extremists. Right now, McCarthy's enemies feel emboldened with each day. It's looking more and more like they're going to get their way. But joining us now is former Republican Congressman Bob Barr from Georgia, who knows all about the inner workings of the House GOP. Thanks so much for coming back on the show. Appreciate it. All right, so first let me just ask you, do you think, based on what you're seeing, that Kevin McCarthy is going to be the next Speaker?
It certainly does not appear so. If he does not have the votes by now, 13 days before the start of the new Congress, then I don't think he will secure them. The last couple of weeks have been critical because the every day, as you just said, Dan, every day that goes by during which he has not secured the votes makes it more difficult to secure them and makes him appear weaker rather than stronger.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.